Good morning, everyone, and welcome to BIBA 2014, Customer, Customer, Customer. Today is May the 14th, and in the research I did to prepare for this speech, I looked back to see what was #1 in the charts on this corresponding date in history. For the Manchester City fans in the audience, and there is at least one, the Marcells with Blue Moon was #1 on this day in 1961. For the regular BIBA conference attendees, Johnny Logan's What's Another Year was #1 on this date in 1980. The BIBA girls' favourite is the Backstreet Boys. There they are, I Want It That Way, #1 on this date in 1999. And for those of you in the audience just wishing I would get on with it, the Tremolos with Silence is Golden, #1 on this date in 1967 is probably the most appropriate. We give considerable thought each year to our conference theme, but I have to say our choice this year has struck a chord with everyone I speak to. Whilst inevitably this speech, and I'm sure plenty of both what you will hear and talk about over the next couple of days will be industry related, let none of us lose sight of the fact that we are all here to serve our customers. After all, they must be at the heart of all our businesses. This year marks the start of a 3-year residency for Europe's largest insurance broking event, the BIBA Conference, here in Manchester Central. The facilities and conference infrastructure makes Manchester a favourite conference location for our sponsors, exhibitors and delegates. So to all of you, please make the most of your time here. I'm sure there's plenty within the exhibition hall and on this year's conference programme to capture and maintain your interest, in addition to the wide range of out-of-conference entertainment right here in the Deansgate area. Let me take this opportunity to thank Lord Hunt for his kind words of introduction. David, we're delighted you've taken the chair of BIBA at this important stage of the association's development. I'm happy to put on record the thanks of the BIBA team for the knowledge, insight and enthusiasm you have brought to the role. Members can rest assured that the chairmanship is in very safe hands. David is already helping considerably in raising our profile and that of you, our members, in political circles. A big thank you at this time to our principal conference sponsors, Ageas, Aviva, AXA and Zurich. Your support for this conference is gratefully received and ensures it remains the premier insurance event in Europe. The BIBA conference continues to attract an increasingly large audience, and for this we are also grateful. This audience comes from far and wide and increasingly from overseas. These overseas delegates include several of our friends from the BIPAR Federation, including Alessandro De Bessi, chairman of BIPAR, delegates from Wisconsin, USA, Canada, Israel, Gibraltar, Jersey, Guernsey, and the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers and their president, Ayu Shoderu. Welcome to you all. I stood before you a year ago and set out my plans as CEO, so I thought I would take this opportunity to provide you with a brief progress report. You may recall that the BIBA board set me the task of implementing our strategic review. Following an extensive consultation exercise, BIBA members voted overwhelmingly for changes to our governance structure which better reflect the way insurance intermediaries are now segmented. 5 advisory boards have been established to represent smaller brokers, larger brokers, the international and wholesale brokers, networks, MGAs and others, and finally, our regional chairs. These new advisory boards have now chosen their chairs, and these chairs will, from now on, sit on the main BIBA board. I can today confirm to you the composition of the board. At our board meeting last week, our current deputy chair, Brendan McManus, stood down and, as a consequence, has left the BIBA board. On behalf of the BIBA board and executive team, I would like to thank both Brendan and our past chair, Andy Homer, for the outstanding contributions they both made to BIBA. Brendan will be replaced as deputy chair by Stuart Reid of Bluefin. The Smaller Brokers Advisory Board, which represents the majority of BIBA member firms, will be represented by Kevin Hancock of Utree Insurance and Andrew Gibbons of Mason Owen. The larger brokers had chosen Stuart Reid as their chair, with Peter Blanc of Gallagher's as deputy. With Stuart now taking the BIBA deputy chair, Peter will represent the larger brokers on the main board. Tim Ryan of UNA will represent the MGAs, networks and others. Julie Page of Marsh has been chosen by the International and Wholesale Brokers Advisory Board as its chair. And finally, the BIBA regional chairs will be represented by Grant Scott of Cowans, chair of BIBA's East Midlands region. These new board members will be joined on the main BIBA board by Chairman Lord Hunt, myself, and BIBA Executive Director Graham Trudgill. Full details of the advisory boards and their composition can be found on the BIBA website. Last year, I called on members to join in, and I'm delighted with the enthusiasm members have shown for getting involved with our new advisory boards. The recommendations of our commercial activities and executive resources work streams have now been successfully delivered. We have a focused commercial function managed by Chris Knott with 2 full-time area managers, Nicola Maguire and Sue Dimmock. Since I addressed you last year, we have also added resource in our compliance, technical, membership and public affairs functions. The BIBA team is now stronger and better able to support you than ever before. Returning to my address last year at London's Excel, I committed the association to be better at both listening to the issues that matter to members and then standing up and speaking out on such issues. Research we conducted in 2012 shows that our representational activities, lobbying and promoting the use of insurance brokers, are the most valued by members. So, how are we performing against that commitment? The BIBA executive team undertook a well-publicised tour of the regions last autumn to update members on BIBA's activities and to gather issues for the 2014 Manifesto, which I'll come back to shortly. This gave us the chance to outline some of the ways in which BIBA interacts with government. And one of the most frequent comments we heard from members at these events was, "I didn't realise BIBA did all that." So let me quickly outline for you how we promote members' interests politically. Through the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Insurance and Financial Services, we've presented on and had great support for the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, regulation, riots, flooding, and the launch of our manifesto. We meet regularly with officials from HM Treasury to discuss a plethora of broking issues, and most recently on the Insurance Growth Action Plan and the Insurance Mediation Directive revision, and we're delighted to see them here today. We've met with the Cabinet Office to discuss cyber insurance, business resilience and continuity for SMEs, with UK Export Finance on a range of trade credit issues, with the Environment Agency and DEFRA on the future of flood insurance for our members' customers, with the Law Commission on changes to insurance contract law for both consumers and businesses, with the Home Office on riot cover and the Riot Damages Act, and the Government Equalities Office on helping signpost to brokers. This led to the creation of our signposting solution, which to date has received over 125,000 inquiries from elderly holidaymakers and motorists seeking suitable insurance. Issues involving the cost of motor insurance have seen us work with the Department for Transport on young drivers and with the DVLA on the My Licence initiative, with the Office of Fair Trading and the Competition Commission on the cost of motor insurance, claims, comparison sites and protected no-claim bonus, with the Ministry of Justice on whiplash and claims management companies, and with Number 10 itself on all key manifesto issues. Finally, you may recall the partnership agreement I signed on BIBA's behalf on stage last year with the then DWP Minister, Mark Hoban. Since then, we've been working with DWP and the National Apprenticeship Service on a range of initiatives, including apprenticeships, careers in broking, plus issues around the Employer's Liability Tracing Office. I think you'll all agree that is a pretty impressive suite of governmental interactions, one that we as a BIBA executive and you as members can be rightly proud of. So, turning to our 2014 manifesto, let me start by thanking the many members that took the time and trouble to provide us with their invaluable contributions. The BIBA Manifesto is our calling card to government, politicians, civil servants and regulators, and sets out not just member concerns, but how those concerns could be turned into wins for consumers, for business, and for the insurance industry. Jonathan Evans, MP, Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group, on insurance and financial services describes our manifesto as the best example of transparent lobbying. At our parliamentary reception back in January, on the launch of the 2014 manifesto, Jonathan said, and I quote, "If you want to know how lobbying should take place in an entirely proper way, based entirely on integrity, then you need really look no further than the model that is set by BIBA." So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a manifesto based on members' issues and which will be used in a manner that's respected by the decision makers it is aimed at. There are plenty of copies on the BIBA stand in addition to the one on your chair that you've sat on if you'd like one. I'll not use this address to go through the 16 campaigning issues we set out in the manifesto. However, I would like to pick out 3 issues for you this morning. Let's start with consumers. I briefly mentioned just now the success our signposting solution has achieved. The primary aim of insurance brokers is, of course, to find suitable insurance protection for their customers. But for a variety of reasons, there are many customers who struggle to find appropriate insurance and are left feeling that the market is broken. Now, we as insurance brokers know that's not the case. What is required, and what we successfully lobbied for with the Government Equalities Office, is a system where these customers can be signposted to a solution. One such solution is BIBA's Find a Broker service, which, as you've just heard, now handles over 400,000 inquiries a year, all of which are passed on to BIBA member firms. We're calling on consumer bodies, government, and the industry to help consumers access suitable insurance more readily. I'm today calling on the industry to work together on this important reputational issue. Let's not simply turn away consumers if we can't help them. Let's point them in the direction of someone who can help. Total signposting. Why wouldn't you do this? We can help facilitate it. Secondly, in respect of SME businesses, the vast majority of SME businesses insure via the broker channel, and indeed around 85% of BIBA member firms would consider themselves to be SMEs. In that SME space, the BIBA-led Claims Working Group is tackling issues such as the reservation of rights and the basis of contract clause. We've been working with our friends at AXA to identify reasons behind claims repudiations, and we will be engaging with the FCA's forthcoming review of commercial claims. We're writing a guide for SMEs on helping identify and prevent underinsurance. We're working with a variety of stakeholders to try and ensure that when the ABI Statement of Principles on flood insurance ends, there is access to flood cover for SMEs. My team today is launching a new guide as part of the Dummies Guide series for small business as a useful tool to help members, and I'm really proud of this particular document. Copies are available on the BIBA stand. Lastly, we're working with the Law Commission on their proposals for reform of business insurance contract law. My third point is in respect of the insurance industry itself. Our support for the Insurance Growth Action Plan enabled us to play a leading role in the launch of the insurance apprenticeship at the start of National Apprenticeship Week in March, including for the Trailblazers initiative. Our manifesto calls for a removal of unfair barriers to business and the creation of more free trade agreements. Finally, without wishing to sound too much like a broken record, our members still tell us that the cost and style of regulation is disproportionate to the limited risks we pose to the regulator. The direct regulatory cost comparison, as revealed by London Economics in the manifesto, emphasises the point loud and clear that we have the most expensive regime amongst the major world insurance markets. We continue to call for more appropriate, proportionate, and cost-effective regulation. Let me now return to our strategic review. Having completed the segmentation and governance strands of the strategic review, our attention has switched to the work stream looking at raising standards. One of the key findings that came out of our strategic report was, and I quote, "Against a backdrop where the expectation is that standards in GI intermediation will be required to be raised, there is a groundswell of support for BIBA to explore its future role in that regard." Any debate on raising standards is a healthy debate, and we've been encouraged by the discussions there have been around the market on how best insurance brokers can work towards this. What I believe is required is what Bieber is calling a pathway to raised standards. Allow me to elaborate. When creating a pathway, it's always prudent to have in mind the start and end points. Our start point is quite naturally the world we find ourselves in today. For the purposes of our pathway to raise standards, let us consider how the world of insurance broking might look in 10 years' time. And to do that, let's use a real example. AXA's Amanda Blunt tells me that her 11-year-old daughter, Caitlin, has always wanted to be an insurance broker. So I'll use Caitlin Blanc as that example. So what will the general insurance broker market look like in 10 years' time for Caitlin? There's no simple answer to the question, but one thing that seems certain is the need to ensure that appropriate standards are maintained and enhanced where necessary. With the new regulatory landscape under the Financial Conduct Authority, there's been an increased focus on how brokers, both large and small, create and maintain a culture where good customer outcomes are consistently achieved. The feeling is that those firms who maintain a high level of professionalism are the ones who are likely to achieve sustainable profit and long-term growth. As the UK's leading general insurance intermediary organisation, which acts as the voice of the industry on key issues, Bieber is well positioned to help you, our members, along this important road. Today, in large parts of the consumer market, price is the dominant factor. However, in my opinion, and the opinions of a number of respected people in this business, there is still a volume of customers, or clients if you prefer, that do want and need the expertise of a trusted expert insurance broker. Insurance is one of the most complex financial products a customer can buy. It's a combination of law, finance, and mathematics of risk, liberally overlaid with what we all know as market practice. That won't change in 10 years' time. It takes years to become an accomplished insurance practitioner, competent to give solid and valued advice about a customer's insurance needs and affairs. We should be proud of our ability to do that. I was recently asked this next question, and I have to confess I had to stop and think for a moment. Who would you go to for advice about risk and insurance other than an insurance broker? Well, I dismissed accountants, solicitors, and bankers. And when I got to doctors and vets, I was very comfortable that the answer is there is no one better qualified than a competent insurance practitioner. An accomplished insurance practitioner can and will continue to add priceless value to a customer's protection of his home, his health, his business, and indeed anything else he needs to protect. Everyone here knows that, but the question is how to advertise that to customers who do not know they need us. Insurance is a necessity now, and it will continue to be so in tomorrow's world. We either have to buy it for commercial or legal reasons, or we buy it because we realize it would be foolish to be without it. It therefore needs to be secure and have the reputation for paying all valid claims fairly. My vision is to promote a level of raised standards in our membership that puts us on an equal footing with other professional advisors. Already, brokers are being judged by the courts on standards equivalent to other recognised professions, and I cannot see that changing. What does raised standards mean? We're looking at this, but it certainly is not just compliance with correct procedures and practices and sticking by the rules. Standards is also about ethics, conduct, and above all, putting the interests of our client before our own interests and maintaining a culture where good customer outcomes are consistently achieved. It's my intention to work with our members around the country and our newly appointed boards to establish a practical, pragmatic, and long-lasting pathway to a prosperous future, a future that Caitlin Blanc will be proud to be part of. Against this backdrop, I confirm that we are launching today a consultation paper, a pathway to raised standards. The purpose of this consultation paper is for Bieber member firms to consider how Bieber can help its members on the journey to raising industry standards. With the regulator likely to focus their attention towards both the larger and smaller brokers, this is also a really good opportunity to show that the sector is taking the initiative to improve standards. It's therefore essential that all members are involved as much as possible in shaping how we achieve this. I know it's an emotive subject, but I strongly believe that now is absolutely the right time for us to be tackling this. Should we harness the CII's Code of Ethics and the FCA's Principles for Businesses? Is there appetite for BIBA to produce a set of standards outlining the level of conduct expected of member firms? Or perhaps a principles-based code setting overarching principles of good business practice? Or maybe a detailed code outlining exactly what's expected of firms? The consultation paper is now available on the BIBA stand, in the exhibition hall and on the BIBA website, and I will be mailing it out personally to every BIBA member CEO in the next couple of days. I encourage every BIBA member firm to engage with us in this important process. Looking ahead to the next couple of days, I believe we have a programme of headline speakers that equals, if not beats, anything we have done previously. I'm sure this morning's panel discussion, entitled Just How Good Are We at Customer Service, will be enthralling as we see award-winning journalist and BBC Moneybox presenter Paul Lewis with Amanda Blanc, Janice Deakin and Kevin Hancock discuss where we are and what more might need to be done. This afternoon, our star attraction, as you've heard, will be Lord Digby Jones. Now, Lord Digby Jones needs no introduction from me, other than to say he is a non-executive director of Leicester Tigers Rugby Club and a supporter of Aston Villa. You didn't know that, did you? In addition to what I'm sure will be a fascinating address, Lord Digby Jones will also be making someone's day by presenting the trophy to the winner of this year's BIBA Young Broker of the Year. Tomorrow, our attention turns to the future. With political lobbying becoming increasingly important for the association, to be listened to, we need to understand where the political wind is blowing. And between now and the conference in 2015, we have the European elections, the Scottish independence vote, plus the general election. Each of these could have major impacts on our members and their businesses. So whilst our Wednesday sessions are largely insurance-focused, Thursday keynotes are dedicated to help us appreciate the bigger picture. And we have some real political heavyweights to help us. Tomorrow morning, we have our big picture debate featuring the Right Honourables Lord Prescott, David Davis, and Sir Walter Menzies or Ming Campbell. And if that is not heavyweight enough, the conference will be closed by former Prime Minister Sir John Major. Right, my auto cue has ground to a halt, meaning it's about time for me to close. Returning to where we started, to the music aficionados in the audience, the best chart topper on this date in history has to be from 1968, Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. Please visit the exhibition hall, do some business, come and say hello to me and my BIBA team. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the conference.